Hello everyone, that Manga Kid here to do a reread review for the manga Lovecom or Lovely Complex. This is a shoujo beat title by Aya Nakahara. It is slightly older, from the mid 2000s or so. Some of the volumes, unfortunately, at this point are out of print. So it took me a very, very, very long time to get this series. Originally, I had read it from my library when I was 13 years old. Fast forward almost a decade, 9 years, and I now have the full series in my possession and have been able to reread it once again. I actually, if it tells you anything, I love this series so much that I purchased all but 2 volumes that I was missing and then repurchased the entire series in bulk from someone who is only willing to sell the full series together because I was having such a hard time getting a hold of the final 2 volumes I needed in a decent condition for an okay price that wasn't like $60. I'm also in Canada, which makes it a bit more difficult. I think US has a bit more options in terms of buying things used without having to pay exorbitant shipping fees and stuff. But yeah, so I repurchased the entire series except for I was missing volume 13 and volume 4. So those were the 2 I was having a lot of trouble with, but also, just so you know, volumes 2 and 15 are also out of print at this time. There may be something else by this point that's also out of print, but those are the 4 that are for sure out of print. But not impossible to find. You can find them if you are determined to do so. It just might take a while. Anyway, this is the series. This series, sorry, is 17 volumes long, and it is about these 2 here. This is Risa and Otani, and they are at the beginning freshmen in high school, so they're about 15 years old, and 15, 16 years old. They start out and they are known as like a comedy duo because they're constantly fighting with each other. They're constantly arguing, and everybody thinks it's hilarious because Otani is extremely short for a boy and Risa is pretty tall for a girl. So she is like well over a head taller than him, and everybody thinks it's funny because they are constantly arguing, and she is seen as like kind of a monstrously tall girl and he is an obscenely short boy. And of course, the story is about their romantic relationship. However, this is one of those slower burning kind of romance stories in that they're starting out as kind of frenemies to friends to then in a relationship. It's much more, it focuses really on their friendship and how that transforms into a relationship. It focuses on the awkwardness of being friends with somebody who tells you that they're in love with you and then trying to figure out if you also love them or if it's just you enjoy being around them because they're your good friend, and trying to navigate that kind of transitional relationship between, we're best friends, we do lots of things together, and now you've told me you like me. Does that ruin our friendship? Does that mean we can be together in a romantic sense? Does that mean that we can't be friends at all? And that's what I find fascinating about this series, is it really delves into that topic, whereas I find that most shoujo is like, they're both awkward around each other from the beginning, and then they get together later, even if it's long in the future or if it's, but the precedent is usually set from the beginning, whereas this one, us as the reader, you go, you're flirting with each other, that's why you're fighting so much. However, or joking and teasing each other. However, to them, that was just how they interact with people. And that's how they interact with each other. And it takes them so long to realize that they actually have feelings for each other and that a relationship is a possibility. Because it does start out with them both liking other people and trying to get into a relationship with other people, and it's just not working out and they can't figure out why. And the friend group is all like, you should be together, but they're so oblivious to that they can't even see it as a possibility. And so this is a story as well that involves the friend group. It's similar to Kimi ni Todoke in a way that you do see the friends' relationships, and the friend group are all in relationships as well. So you get to see a bit of the drama and the comedy involved with the friend group's relationships in a similar way as Kimi ni Todoroki was. But Kimi ni Todoroki, I think, goes into more depth later on about the other relationships, whereas this one does stay very focused on Otani and Risa's relationship, but it's much more of a comedy. So it does delve into the friend group relationships, but never in a super duper serious way, because this series is not serious. It is very funny. It is a romantic comedy, and it is one of the funnier ones. If you like kind of slapstick humor with ridiculous facial expressions, this is the one for you. Let's see if I can find. It should not be difficult. Here's a bit of the art style and what it kind of looks like at the beginning. There's Risa. It's pleasant. It's not like fantastic. You do see her art improve over the 17 volumes, as is expected. Of course, now I won't be able to find any of her absolutely ridiculous faces. Oh, there's one. With her eyes like that, but she makes this like fish face. That is hysterically funny. There's a good one of Otani's eyes, but it's so ridiculously over the top. It's so much fun, and there's lots of like extras and stuff at the back. There's usually extra little side stories or weird things happening, but there's a good one again with her eyes. I'm trying to find her fish face. Anyway, the cast of characters is wonderful. It goes through all the shoujo tropes of I think there's probably a sports day in here. There's definitely like the cultural festivals. Yeah, like it does the Christmas, couples, holidays sort of thing. Yeah, any shoujo trope is probably in here, but it's done in such an over-the-top comedy way that it's so funny. I'm just trying to find. I really want to find her ridiculous face, but of course, now that I'm looking for it, it's impossible. This also does. This series has a transgender character, and though I'm not, entirely. There's another ridiculous face. Right there. Though I'm not entirely pleased with how the character's handled, I do understand that at the time of writing this, like, the world has changed a lot in terms of, how people perceive transgender people. And honestly, this series does it better than most, which is pleasant, because what I really appreciate is that all of the females in the series treat this trans person with respect. They respect the pronouns, they respect the name, they respect the behavior, and just accept this person for who they are, and don't ever really question the person's identity in a way that's like negative or trying to put them down. The boys have a bit more of, a way to go in terms of acceptance, but for the most part, they're not terribly cruel or anything. It's just kind of like sometimes, like they basically just say constantly like that the person's a boy, which is not respecting the person's identity. But at the same time, we'll still at points use she, her pronouns for the person, and use the right name that the person wants them to use. But yeah, I mean, in terms of that, this series, it could be a lot worse in terms of representation, and I do enjoy the representation and the way that it is handled for the time that this series was written. I think is done pretty well. So, and it's not that there's one character in particular that treats this trans person in a way that I don't like, and unfortunately, it's the friend that's the closest to her. and that's where it's kind of like the butt end of the joke situation. But every other situation and every other character interaction is usually not a negative one. So that's where the redeeming kind of factor is. The other thing about this series is it starts at their first kind of bit of high school and goes right up until when they graduate. So this is one that really encompasses their whole high school lives, and you get to see this relationship grow all the way from start until finish. And it finishes in 16 volumes. Volume 17 is a bunch of extras. So you get a couple stories of when they were in middle school at their different respective schools. So you get to see them before they met each other in high school. And then you also get to see a chapter of when they're all kind of in post-secondary situations, and they're all meeting up again to hang out once they've all gone off to post-secondary school. So you get to see a bit of their like college life as well, which is interesting. Yeah, I love this series. Lovely Complex, or Love-Com, is one of the staple shoujo series in my opinion. I think if you have not read it, you absolutely should. Yeah, if you're more into super drama driven, like mature romance stuff, this isn't for you. This is a through and through comedy romance story that is so lovely and enjoyable. It reminds me of High School Debut in that way, that series is so funny. However, that series is slightly more mature than this one, because that series does reference, the other side characters do reference sex and things like that. But this one is very much a PG kind of romance series with these two friends who then become in a relationship, but continue their dynamic, which is what I love. Is that when they start going out and everybody else around them is saying like, you know, stop teasing each other, stop, you know, you need to be more like lovey-dovey with each other, you need to be going on these dates like everybody else does, you need to be doing whatever, they're all like, screw off. Like, we have our own interests that you may not think is cool, that you may not think is romantic, but we have a great time together. And so that's what I love about this, is they stick to uh, their own likes and dislikes and stuff without letting the other people around them influence their decisions, which is my favorite part of this. They stay true to who they are through and through, and I love it. Anyway, that is, I think, all I have to say on Love-Com for now. If you've read Love-Com, please let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear them. If you're interested in the series and have questions, for sure leave them in the comments below as well. I really, really hope that you get a hold of the series and check it out, because it is not one that you want to miss if you are into shoujo. Yeah, thanks for watching. See ya.